Well, hello, welcome again to our reading of the Greek New Testament, and we're reading the Gospel of Luke, and we're up to chapter 16. This particular quite long pericope is only in Luke. It's Lucan material, and in fact it's quite a strange section, and probably to understand it properly you need to have a look at the commentaries. I'm just going to translate what's here without attempting to make sense of some of the more difficult passages. So it begins, elegen de kai prostus mathetas, anthropostis en plusios, hos eken oikonomon, kai hutos diable theauto hos diascorpisdon ta huparchon ta autou. And he began to say, imperfect, to the disciples, Anthropostis, a certain man, ein plusios, was wealthy, who had an oikonomos. Now, this is simply a word meaning nemo. You know nomos, a law, but nemo, the verb, can mean to distribute something or to arrange, and it's oikos, so he's a house arranger. In other words, he is a steward. He's in charge of running the household, in particular the monetary affairs, the oikonomos. And this man, diabletho, this is an aorist passive from diaballo. Diaballo means to slander. In fact, the name for the devil, diabolos, is the slanderer. It's a bit like our modern expression of throwing mud. That's where the ballo, I presume, comes into the word. But so he was slandered to him. So this man was slandered, that is, the oikonomos was slandered to the master, as diascorpisdon, literally scattering around. So we would say squandering. So scorpisto is to scatter. We get our word scorpion from that, oddly enough. So diascorpisdo is to scatter, but here to squander. And the hupakonta is things which exist for him, so his possessions. So he was slandered to him as squandering his possessions, his money. Kai phronesas auton apen auto, and having called him, he said to him, so this is the master calling the steward, Tit tuto akue perisu. What is this I hear regarding you? Apodos ton logon tes oikonomiasu. Uga dune eti oikonomein. So we've had oikonomos, we've got oikonomia, the abstract noun, and the verb oikonomio, all of these from the same root. So he said, what is this I hear about you? Give back, so apodos, give the logon. Well, logos has got a range of meanings. Here it's the account. So give the account of your stewardship, abstract noun, for you are able no longer, oikonomen, to be steward, to act as steward. Apen de en hiauto ho oikonomos. And the steward said in himself, Ti poieso, what will I do? Hoti hokurios mu apharatai ten oikonomion ep emu. For the master takes away, my master takes away the stewardship, that's the abstract again, ap emu, from me. Skaptain uk iskuo. I am not strong to dig, so I would say I'm not strong enough to dig. I don't have the strength, skaptain, to dig. Apaitain I skunamai, and I am ashamed. Apaitio is to beg, it's to ask for something from someone, so hence it comes to mean to beg. And epaites is a beggar. So I am ashamed to beg, or perhaps almost I'm too proud to beg. Egnon te poieso, I know what I will do. Hina hotan metastatho ectes oikonomias dexontai me es tusa oikus auton. So I know what I will do in order that when This is from meta plus histemi. So when I stand down from the stewardship, we're not told who they are, but they will receive me, so perhaps people will receive me into their houses. Kai pros kalesamenos hena hekaston ton kriophileton to kuriou hiau to elegen to proto. Poson ophelas to kuriou mu, and having summoned, hekaston each hena one of the debtors. This is from krios, which is a word meaning a debt, something that you a debt, and ophelo is to owe someone. It's from the verb. This is a first declension masculine noun, so it's kriopholetes if you're looking this one up. So the each one of the debtors of my master, of his own master. So having called each one of the debtors of his own master, of the master of himself, elegen, he said to the first one, how much do you owe my master? Hode apen, and he said, hekaton batus eliu. 100. Now a batos is a liquid measure. It's apparently roughly between 36 and 41 litres. It's only here in the New Testament. In the old measure, it's about 8 to 9 gallons. Eliu, this is of olive oil. Hode apen auto, and he said to him, Dexai su ta grammata kai kathisas takios grapson pent airconta. This is from imperative from decamai, normally means to receive. So the steward's handing over, presumably. So take the grammata are the accounts, literally the things having been written from grapho. So take your accounts, and kathisas from kathisdo, having sat down, quickly grapson imperative right, pentekon to 50. So he owes 100 and he's going to change it to 50. Epeta hetero apen, and then he said to another one, Su deposon opheles, how much do you owe? Hode apen, and he said, Hekaton chorus situ. Now, choros is a corn measure, and I'm not sure what it is in modern measurements. In old measurements, it's about 10 to 12 bushels. So this is situ, probably of grain here, of corn. Sitos is generally a very vague word. It can just mean food, but grain. So it's 100. Well, we would probably say then 1,000 bushels of situ of corn, or 100 measures of corn. And he says to him, Dexai su ta grammata kai grapson odoker conta. So take the accounts and write 80. Kai epenesen hokurios ton oikonomon tes adikias hotifronimos epoiesen. This I've always found a very odd verse, and I leave as with the ones coming up, you should perhaps consult commentary on this one to explain it more carefully. I'll just translate it. And the Lord, the master, he praised the steward for, and it's an odd use of the genitive here, but he praised him for his unrighteousness, for his wickedness, because he acted, epoiesen, phronimos, adverb, he acted cleverly. Well, he did act cleverly, but it was also, I'm not quite sure why the master thought this was wonderful when the master's losing money. Hoti, hoi tu ionos tu phronimotera, hupatus huius tu photos, estan genian, ten hiauton asin. Now the hoti just, you can just do it literally, because you might understand a Lego, I say that. Or you might understand hoti as being used like hose, thus, but it's not clear exactly what to do with the hoti, but you might say, I say that the sons of this age are phronimoteroi, more clever beyond the sons of light, the sons of the light, in this their generation. It's a fairly obscure verse here, and I'm not going to say more about it. You can look it up in the commentaries to explain what it says, but that's the translation of it. So it's either because or thus, or I say that the sons of this age are more wise, more clever, beyond, and rather than using a for than, they're using huper, beyond the sons of this of light in this their own generation. And this looks like it's some kind of aphorism that Luke is quoting here. It doesn't look like the usual Lucan style language to me, but kai ego humin lego, but I say to you, hiatois poiesiti philus ectu memona tes adikias, hinahotan eklipe dexon tai humas estas ion neus skenas. So I say to you, now it's literally make friends for yourselves, ek in the sense of as a result of. Now this is mamona, this is it's a Hebrew word, it's mamonas. This is a genitive form, and we'll see, I think, the dative a little bit later. Down here there's the dative form. It's hard to parse it really. It looks like it's being used as a kind of strange first declension noun with the way the genitive and dative are formed. It doesn't look like a third declension, but I think it's hard to say what declension it actually comes from. This is the genitive here, though, from mamonas. So make for yourselves friends as a result of the mammon, which simply means wealth, tes adikias, which comes from wickedness, in order that whenever eklipe, it runs out, it fails, that is, the money runs out, they will receive you in the eternal tents, in the eternal tabernacles. Hodepistos, for the one who is faithful in elakisto, this is the superlative from oligos, little, so this is in the least. So the one who is faithful in the least also is faithful in much. And the one adikos who is unjust in elakisto, in the least matter, also is adikos unjust in much, so in a large matter. Eun ento adiko mamona pistoi uk egeneste to elethinon tis humon pistuse. If therefore you are not faithful in or with perhaps unjust, or in relation to unjust wealth, there's the dative of that noun, with unjust wealth, who will trust you with to alethinon, the genuine, understand, wealth, or the true wealth. Kai e en to alotrio pistoi uk egeneste, and if you are not faithful ento alotrio, alotrios means foreign, so someone else's possession. So if you are not faithful with something that belongs to someone else, tit humeteron tis humindose, who will give to you your own property? So who will give you something for yourself? Udes oiketes dunatai dusi kurios duluain. So no, an oiketes is a house servant. So no servant is able duluain to serve or to be a slave to two masters. Agar for either mitsese, he will hate the one and he will love the other, ton heteron agapese, a henos and anexatai, kai tu heteru kataphronese. Or, this is from anti plus echo, it's to cling to attach himself to, it's got that echo of holding on to. So he will cling to the one, and he will kataphronese, he will despise the other, from kataphronio. Kataphronio means to turn your mind against somebody and hence to despise them. So either he will cling to the one and he will despise the other. And we've got genitives after these verbs here. Udunas thy theo duluain kai mammona. For you are not able to serve God, and mammona is wealth. And there's the dative again. The next little pericope is in Matthew, but not in Mark. Akuon de tauta panta hoi pharisaioi phil aguroi hupakontes kai ex emukterisdon auton. And the Pharisees were listening to, heard all of these things. It's imperfect, so we're hearing all of these things. Hupakontes, just used often like just the verb to be, so being, it's almost being by nature. Phil aguroi, lovers of money. Kai, now this verb here, mukterisdo, is a classical word. It's often used of cows snorting, was the original sense of the verb. Then it comes to mean something like to turn their nose up at, and hence to ridicule or sneer. And it's imperfect here, and the X just makes it very much stronger. So they were sneering at him. Kai apen autois, and he said to them, Humes esti hoi dikaiuntes hiautus enopion ton anthropon, hodotheos ginoske tas kadias humon. Hoti ton en anthropois hupselon bdelogma enopion tu theou. You are the ones, well, it's making yourselves righteous. Well, perhaps almost declaring yourselves righteous. But of course they followed very strict rules and so on. So you are the ones who make yourselves righteous in opion tone antopone, in the eyes of men, so before men. Hoder theos, but God knows your hearts. Hoti, because the top goes with the hupselon. Hupselon is actually an adjective meaning high up. But here it has the sense of that which is elevated. So that which is high up among men, that which is elevated among men, understand is, supply esti, is a bedelogma, is an abomination before God. Hot de nomos kai hoi prophetai mekri Ioannu. For the law and the prophets, understand, were up until John. Apototi he basileia to theo euangelistatai kai pas is auten bi asdatai. But from now on, the kingdom of God is being proclaimed as good news, and everyone. Now this is a very strange phrase. It means something like to enter by force. So is forced into it, or is compelled to it. And again, I'll leave you to look at the commentaries on this. This particular verse like this one occurs also in Matthew, and it's equally slightly obscure as to what it actually means. But so it's literally everyone biasdatai enters it by force, or perhaps it may be passive, is forced to enter it. Eukopoteron de estin ton uranon kaitain gain parelthein e tu nomumian kareon pesein. For it is, this is this impersonal use of esti, it is eukopoteron, it is easier. Eu is that root of meaning good, and kopos is a labour, so it's an easy labour. So it is easier, comparative, for heaven and earth, parelthein, to pass away, and then we get a after the comparative, than one keraion. Now, keraion is literally, it's connected with the word for horn, H-O-R-N, as in the sense of a unicorn horn, and it refers here to certain distinguishing marks on Hebrew letters. In fact, certain letters, such as Beth, for example, have got a little hook at the top. When you draw Beth, there's a little hook up at the top, and that's must be referred to here. And there's several other letters that have a little tiny hook on the top of them. So often translated as jot. So it is easier for heaven and earth to pass away than for one jot of the law, pesein, literally to fall. In other words, in the sense of to fall out, to disappear. This is the aorist infinitive from pipto. Pas hot, and then we get, just out of the blue, we get this verse here about divorce, which is one that, without any other out clauses or anything else, it's just pretty straightforward, but probably not a particularly popular verse nowadays, with divorce being so high. Pas ha apoluain, everyone divorcing his wife, kai gamon heteran moikue, and marrying another commits adultery. And hot, the one, and it goes with gamon, the one marrying a woman who is apolumenain, who has been divorced from her husband. So any man who marries a woman divorced from her husband, moikue, commits adultery. And that's the end of the first part of chapter 16.